Harlem, 1948. The war's over, but for black veterans, the fight's just beginning. A downtown subway platform. Late evening. Mame Johnson, Bumpy Johnson's wife, standing near the exit, waiting for her train. Two white cops approach, not for protection, for power. "Let me see your ID." Mame looks up, confused. She hasn't done anything. "I don't have it with me, officers. I'm just—" One cop cuts her off. "You don't have it. That's disrespect right there." The other one steps closer, too close. "Maybe we need to take you in, teach you some manners." She tries to back away. He grabs her arm, hard. That's when James Jimmy Carter walks up. Decorated WWII veteran, Bronze Star, Combat Infantry badge, still wearing his uniform from the ceremony earlier that day. He sees what's happening, and he steps in. "Excuse me, officers. Is there a problem?" The cops turn, see the uniform, don't care. "Move along, boy, this doesn't concern you." Jimmy doesn't move. "She hasn't done anything, you're harassing her." Now both cops square up, aggressive, close. "You got a mouth on you, huh? You know who you're talking to?" Jimmy stands firm, calm, direct. "I know exactly who I'm talking to, and I didn't fight Nazis overseas to watch you disrespect a lady on a subway platform." Silence. A few bystanders watching now. The first cop steps into Jimmy's face. "You just made a big mistake, boy. What's your name?" Jimmy gives it. No hesitation, no fear. The cop writes it down, slow, deliberate, making sure Jimmy sees. "You're gonna regret this." They back off. Let Mame go, but before they leave, one of them leans in close. "We don't forget faces, especially ones that don't know their place." Mame exhales, shaken, grateful. She whispers to Jimmy as the cops disappear up the stairs. "Thank you, but you don't know what you just did." Jimmy nods. He knows. Here's what most people miss about that moment. It wasn't just two cops having a bad day. This was post-war Harlem. Black veterans were coming home with confidence, with pride, with expectations. And the NYPD didn't like it. They saw returning soldiers as threats. Men who'd been treated like equals overseas. Men who'd led troops. Men who wouldn't bow, so they targeted them, publicly, violently, to send a message. Jimmy Carter knew the risk, but he also knew something else. Mame Johnson wasn't just any woman, she was Bumpy's wife. And in Harlem, that meant something. Within hours, word gets back to Bumpy. Someone helped Mame, a veteran, named Jimmy Carter. Bumpy doesn't forget loyalty. 3 days later, Jimmy's at home, knock on the door, he opens it. Bumpy Johnson. Standing there alone, calm. "You Jimmy?" "Yes, sir. I hear you helped my wife." Jimmy nods. "I did what anyone should have done." Bumpy studies him, quiet, reading. Then he extends his hand. "You need anything, work, protection, anything, you come find me." That handshake changed Jimmy's life. Because in Harlem, respect isn't given, it's earned. And protecting someone under Bumpy's name, that's currency. But here's the cold part. Those two cops, they didn't forget either. Weeks later, Jimmy's walking home from work. Same two officers pull up. No witnesses this time. They drag him into an alley, beat him, bad. "Thought you were tough, soldier. Thought you were special." Jimmy takes it, doesn't fight back. Knows if he does, they'll kill him and call it resisting arrest. They leave him there, bleeding, broken ribs, swollen face, but Jimmy survives. And when Bumpy hears what happened, his response is immediate. He doesn't go after the cops. That's heat he doesn't need. Not yet. Instead, he puts Jimmy on payroll, gives him a job, protection, a place in the network. "You stood up when you didn't have to. That means something. You're with me now." Jimmy becomes one of Bumpy's trusted men, not because he was a killer, not because he had connections, because he had a code. And in Bumpy's world, that's the only thing that matters. This story isn't just about one subway platform. It's about what loyalty costs. Jimmy Carter risked everything for a stranger, and that stranger's husband made sure the debt was paid. But the cops, They never forgot. And according to people who were there, those same officers stayed on Jimmy's back for years, pulled him over, harassed him, waited for him to slip. They never got him because Bumpy made sure of it. Eyes everywhere, leverage everywhere. If you touched one of his people, you paid. That's the difference between power and force. Force is loud, power is quiet, and it remembers. Mame never forgot that moment. Years later, she'd tell the story herself, about the veteran who stepped in, about the code Harlem lived by. Protect your own. Respect the ones who respect you, and never let disrespect slide. That subway platform wasn't just a moment, it was a choice. And choices like that echo. Jimmy Carter could have walked past, could have stayed quiet, could have avoided the trouble, but he didn't. And Bumpy Johnson made sure he never regretted it. That's Harlem, that's the code. That's how legends are built, not with guns, not with threats, with loyalty, with action, with consequences. And if you've been around long enough, you know, people don't remember what you said. They remember what you did, and who you did it for. Mame Johnson walks through the door that night, quiet, shaken, but safe. Bumpy's sitting at the kitchen table, reading the paper, coffee going cold. He looks up, sees her face, knows something happened. Talk to me, she tells him everything. The subway platform, the two cops, the grab, the threats. And then the soldier, the veteran who stepped in. Bumpy doesn't speak, doesn't move, just listens. His face goes cold, not angry, calculating. When she finishes, he sets the paper down, folds it, precise. Then he asks one question. What was the soldier's name? James Carter, Jimmy. He was still wearing his uniform. Bumpy nods once. That's all he needs. He stands. Walks to the phone, makes 3 calls, no shouting, no theatrics, just names, locations, instructions. Find him tonight. Within 3 hours, Bumpy knows everything. James Jimmy Carter, Bronze Star, Combat Infantry Badge. Discharged 6 months ago. Lives in a tenement on 132nd. 3rd floor. 1 room, no hot water, can't find work. Jim Crow employment. No white employer will hire a black veteran who doesn't know his place. He's been trying. Every day, every factory, every loading dock. Doors keep closing. Bumpy sits with that information, silent, thinking. Then he makes a decision. A man who protects my family deserves more than a handshake. He doesn't explain. Doesn't need to. His people know what that means. Jimmy Carter just became untouchable. Meanwhile, across town, the 2 cops are celebrating, back at the precinct, laughing, telling the story to anyone who will listen. Some uppity Engro vet tried to talk back, still in his little uniform, thought he was special. Yeah, what you do? Took his name, let him know we run this city, not him. Other cops laugh, slap backs, pour drinks. You should have seen his face when we wrote it down, thought he was gonna cry. The story spreads, through the precinct, through the neighborhood. White cops hear it, smile, nod, that's how it's supposed to be. Black residents hear it. Anger, fear, silence. But in Harlem, whispers travel fast. And when those whispers reach the right people, they don't just travel, they echo. By morning, both communities know. A decorated veteran got threatened for defending a woman. In white precincts, it's proof the system works. Keep them in line. In Harlem, it's something else. A test. A line crossed. Everyone's waiting. Watching. Will Bumpy retaliate? Will he go after the cops? Will Jimmy Carter get arrested? Framed? Disappeared? The tension builds, slow, heavy, because here's what most people miss about that moment. Bumpy Johnson didn't become a kingpin by reacting. He became one by calculating. Going after cops, that's heat. Federal heat. The kind that shuts down operations, gets people killed, but doing nothing, that's weakness. And in Harlem, weakness is blood in the water, so Bumpy does what he always does. He plays 3 moves ahead. He doesn't touch the cops, not yet, not directly. Instead, he protects the soldier, quietly, completely. Within days, Jimmy Carter gets a visitor. One of Bumpy's men knocks on his door, hands him an envelope. Inside, $500 cash and a note. You stood up. That means something. Come to Lenox Avenue, Thursday, 8 p.m. We'll talk. Jimmy stares at the money, the note, the address. He knows who sent it. Everyone in Harlem knows that address. And he knows what it means. This isn't charity, it's an offer. A door opening. Because in Bumpy's world, loyalty isn't just rewarded, it's invested in. You protect his family, he protects yours. Simple, direct, permanent, but the cops, they're still bragging, still laughing, still writing reports about maintaining order. They don't know it yet, but they just made themselves targets. Not for violence, for something colder. Leverage. See, Bumpy doesn't need to kill cops. He just needs to own them. And in 1948 Harlem, every cop has a price. A debt. A secret. Bumpy's network starts digging. Quietly. Thoroughly. Who do these cops owe money to? Who are they sleeping with? What rules have they bent? It takes 2 weeks. But they find it. One cop's got a gambling problem. Owes $5 grand to the wrong people. The other one, he's been skimming evidence. Selling confiscated goods, pocketing the cash. Bumpy doesn't expose them, not yet. He just buys the gambling debt, quietly, through a third party, and he makes sure the right people know about the evidence skimming. Now those cops aren't just dirty, they're owned. And if they ever come near Mame again, near Jimmy, near anyone Bumpy protects, that information goes public, careers end, prosecutions begin. That's the difference between revenge and power. Revenge is loud, emotional, temporary. Power is silent, strategic, permanent. Bumpy doesn't need to hurt them. He just needs them to know they're already caught. And according to people who were there, those 2 cops never bothered another Harlem resident again. They stayed quiet, stayed in their lane, stayed afraid. Because they finally understood what Jimmy Carter understood on that subway platform. Respect isn't about who's louder, it's about who's protected. And in Harlem, Bumpy Johnson protected his own. Thursday night, 8 p.m. Jimmy Carter walks into the spot on Lenox Avenue. Bumpy's there, waiting, calm, they sit, they talk. And by the end of the night, Jimmy's got a job, a real one, steady pay, protection. Not because Bumpy needed another soldier. He had plenty, but because Jimmy had something rarer, a code. He stepped in when he didn't have to for a stranger, knowing the cost. And in Bumpy's world, that's the only currency that matters. The cops kept their jobs, kept their badges, kept their secrets buried, but they paid a different price. They lived knowing they were watched, owned, one mistake away from exposure. And every time they saw a black veteran in uniform, they remembered. They remembered the soldier who didn't back down, and the kingpin who made sure he never had to. That's Harlem, that's the code. You protect your own, you calculate your moves, you don't react, you respond. And when someone crosses the line, you don't just punish them. You make sure they never forget why they lost. Bumpy Johnson didn't need to start a war that night. He just needed to remind everyone who already controlled the board. And Jimmy Carter, he became one of Bumpy's most loyal men, not because of money, not because of fear, because respect was given, and respect was returned. That's how legends are built, not with guns, with decisions, with the understanding that power isn't about what you do in the moment. It's about what you set in motion 3 moves ahead. And if you've been around long enough, you know, people don't remember the loud ones. They remember the ones who moved in silence and still changed everything. The cops bragged for a week. Bumpy moved for a lifetime. Guess which one people still talk about? 3 days later, 4 a.m. Jimmy Carter's still asleep in his one-room tenement on 132nd. Knock at the door. Firm, deliberate, 3 times he rolls out of bed, half awake, grabs the bat by the door, opens it. Nobody there, just darkness, silence, and something on the doorstep. A leather briefcase, an envelope, and a folded American flag. Jimmy looks left, right. The hallway's empty. He picks them up, brings them inside, locks the door, sets everything on the small table by the window. His hands are shaking, not from fear, from something else. He opens the briefcase first. Slowly, stacks of cash, crisp bills, bound tight, $10,000. In 1948, that's not money, that's a life, a future, a way out. Today, that's over $125,000. Easily, Jimmy stares, doesn't touch it, just stares. He reaches for the envelope, opens it, pulls out 2 pieces of paper. The first one's official, legal, stamped, a deed to a barbershop on Lenox Avenue, fully paid, no liens, no debt. Owner James Carter, his name, in ink, already filed. The second piece of paper is handwritten, neat, controlled. A soldier who defends honor in peacetime deserves a post worth holding. This corner is yours. Respect protects respect. Jimmy reads it twice, 3 times. Lets it sink in. Then he sees the third item in the envelope, sealed, addressed to the police commissioner. He doesn't open it. He doesn't need to. He knows what leverage looks like. But it's the folded flag that breaks him. He picks it up, unfolds it, and his chest tightens. It's his flag, his service flag, the one they gave him when he came home, the one he pawned 6 months ago to pay rent, the one he thought he'd never see again. Bumpy didn't just give him money, didn't just give him property, he gave him back his dignity, the thing the system took, the thing the cops tried to strip, the thing Jim Crow crushed every single day. Bumpy found it, tracked it down, bought it back, returned it. Jimmy sits down, holds the flag, and for the first time in months he cries, not from pain, from something he forgot existed. Hope. By sunrise, word spreads fast. A veteran got a barbershop, cash, his flag back, all from Bumpy Johnson. People talk. Neighbors talk. Veterans talk. And within hours, the whole neighborhood knows. This wasn't a transaction, it was a statement. Bumpy Johnson just told Harlem, I protect my own, I honor my own, and when the system fails you, I won't. The barbershop becomes legendary before it even opens. Not because of the money, because of what it represented. A black man, a veteran, abandoned by his country, disrespected by cops, struggling to survive, and a kingpin who saw him, valued him, restored him. That's the part people miss when they talk about Bumpy Johnson. He wasn't just a gangster, he was a protector, for the people the system threw away. And in 1948 Harlem, that meant everything. Veterans across the neighborhood start showing up, at Jimmy's door, at the barbershop address, not asking for money, just paying respect. You stood up, Bumpy saw it, that means something. Some bring tools, some bring chairs. Some just bring their presence. Within a week, the shop's ready. Clean, functional, professional, Jimmy Carter's barbershop, Lenox Avenue, Harlem. And on opening day, there's a line around the block. Not because people need haircuts. Because they need to see it, to believe it. A man who did the right thing got rewarded. In a world that punishes the right thing every single day. That's the story Harlem needed. Meanwhile, the 2 cops, they're done. The sealed letter Bumpy sent to the police commissioner, it got delivered, quietly. No press, no scandal, no public drama, just a closed-door meeting, a file placed on a desk, and a decision made. Within a week, both cops are reassigned. Out of Harlem, permanently. One goes to Staten Island, the other to a desk job in Brooklyn. They don't get fired, don't get prosecuted, don't even lose rank, but they lose Harlem, and everyone knows why. That's Bumpy's leverage in action. He didn't destroy them. He just moved them off the board. Because here's what most people don't understand about power. Destruction is easy. It's loud. It's temporary. Control is harder. It's quiet. It's permanent. Bumpy didn't need those cops dead. He needed them gone. and he needed everyone to know he could do it without a single shot fired. That's the difference between a gangster and a kingpin. A gangster reacts. A kingpin orchestrates. And by the time you realize you've been moved, the game's already over. Jimmy runs that barbershop for 30 years, 3 decades. He never pays protection money. Not once. Not to anyone. Because Bumpy made it clear. This corner is untouchable. And even after Bumpy's gone, that protection holds. Out of respect. Out of memory. Out of code. The barbershop becomes a Harlem institution. Generations of men get their first haircut there. Their last haircut there. It's where stories are told. Where history is passed down. Where the code is taught. And every single person who walks through that door knows the story. Knows about the subway platform. The veteran, the cops, the briefcase, the flag. They know what it cost. And what it meant. Because this isn't just a story about money or property or revenge. It's a story about what happens when someone with power chooses to build instead of destroy. When they choose dignity over dominance. When they choose community over ego. Bumpy Johnson could have killed those cops, could have made an example, could have started a war. But he didn't. He gave a soldier a corner, a future, a purpose. And in doing that, he gave Harlem something more valuable than fear. He gave them proof that respect still mattered. That loyalty still paid. That standing up still meant something. Even when the system said it didn't. That's why Harlem wept. Not from sadness, from gratitude. Because for once the right man got rewarded, and the wrong men got moved. And the man who made it happen didn't do it for glory, didn't do it for publicity, didn't even take credit publicly. He just did it, quietly, completely, permanently. And 30 years later, when Jimmy Carter finally closed that shop for the last time, he still had the flag, still had the note, still had the deed. And according to people who were there, he never stopped telling the story. Not because he was grateful, he was, but because he understood what Bumpy understood. That stories like this don't just inspire. They instruct. They teach young men what loyalty looks like, what respect looks like, what power looks like when it's used right. And in a world that constantly teaches the opposite, that kind of story is worth more than money. It's legacy. Bumpy Johnson built an empire, but he also built barbershops, paid rents, bought back flags. And 50 years later, people still tell those stories with the same reverence they tell the other ones. Because they both mattered. They both counted. They both defined who he was. Not just a kingpin, a protector, not just feared, respected. And when you're gone, that's the only question that matters. Did you just take? Or did you also give? Did you just destroy? Or did you also build? Bumpy gave Jimmy Carter a corner, but he gave Harlem something bigger. Proof that the code still worked. That honor still paid. That standing up still mattered. Even when the world said it didn't. And that's why they still talk about it. Why the barbershop became legend. Why the story never dies. Because it wasn't just about one soldier. It was about all of them. Every veteran who came home to nothing. Every man the system disrespected. Every person who stood up and paid the price. Bumpy saw them, honored them, protected them. And in 1948 Harlem, that wasn't just power, that was love.